Welcome to today's video. I'm really excited because I have come to the home of a fantastic YouTuber. If you haven't watched him, you will be watching him after today. It is Mr. Everything English.
Hello guys, thank you for that lovely introduction, Mr. Salis. It is a pleasure to be here on your YouTube channel.
And it's a pleasure to be here in your room.
Thank you very much.
Let's do it. Okay, let's go. So this is the second video in our series. If you haven't watched the first, there's a link in the doobly-doo below. We are picking quotations that will fit every single essay title you could possibly get. So they're super high value, and we're going to show you how they link to lots of different questions as we go. We're also going to take you through AO1, AO2 and AO3, so you really understand how to get maximum marks out of any quotation you use.
Now, if we're looking at what questions could this quote potentially apply to, straight off the bat, two very easy questions, guys, is if you were to get a question about Macbeth or Lady Macbeth or even their relationship, this is your go-to quote. We'll explain why later, but as the initial point, those three, Macbeth by himself, Lady Macbeth by herself, or both of these characters and their relationship, this quote, guys, will work perfectly. Mr. Salis, what are the questions?
Brilliant. You might get a question about power, in which case you've got the idea of what things look like on the surface, but where real power lies underneath. And you'll be able to contrast that, say, to Malcolm's sorts of kingship, or the way Macduff behaves, compared to Macbeth and Lady Macbeth.
Yeah, you got the idea of gender and how this quotation almost flips gender roles upside down. So this is a nice, easy link to gender. And then you've also got the supernatural and how behavior is influenced not by just people themselves, but many external factors. So that's quite a bit. What's that, about 6?
That's loads.
Now, guys, look, how you make the quote fit the question is what we're going to do now. Hence why we're going to go over the language, the structure, the form, the context, and then you can pick what you want to make it fit on the day of your exam.
So the first thing we want to do with a quotation is get into the language analysis. This one's a gift because it's so easy to spot the methods. Would you like to start one with the first?
Yep, so the first one, guys, is staring us right in the face, so we can't really ignore it, and that is the simile at the top where she tells her beautiful husband, look even more beautiful and look like the innocent flower. That is the first language device in this quote. Ms. Alice?
So the next language device is the metaphor, where she's actually giving an instruction. So rather than be like something, no, I want you totally to be this. So that's going to prove much more urgent when we analyze it.
Now, guys, we will analyze it eventually. For now, we're just picking. So we've got language. Now, if I was picking out some key words or key phrases, I think something that you can't, is almost unavoidable, is maybe innocent and under it. Now, later we'll explain, but maybe these two words are worth discussing. So AO2, Mr. Salis, we have spoken about language. What is next on our list?
Well, I'm going to go in still with language, with flower and serpent. So you see you're going to have a really high value quotation here. After language, do we look at form? I can't remember what we decided.
To structure first. We're going to go for structure first, guys. And for structure, we agreed that we're going to speak about one predominant thing, and that is the idea of juxtaposition. Actually, no, there were two things. The first one was juxtaposition of gender roles and how everything is flipped upside down. And then we spoke about sprinkling. Do you remember what we said about sprinkling?
Well, I've watched a few of your videos, and I've noticed that sprinkling is a favourite metaphor of yours. So you're going to talk about sprinkling.
Have you seen something?
Yeah.
And how he sprinkles the salt over the meat. That's what I do with these quotes.
Right, we're going to do that.
We sprinkle our knowledge. That's a good thumbnail. But we sprinkle our knowledge over these. So yeah, guys, sprinkling. I believe the structural name to sprinkling, I think it's called granularizing. But we'll go over that later. But it's the idea of things being spread out across the text. So we have structure, we have language, and then, as you mentioned, we move on to form. But this is Act 1. Act 1, Macbeth was brave Macbeth. He was chopping enemies from the knee to the chaps, and now he's being a beautiful flower. So we are looking, guys, at the pace and how the pace affects the text because of the form, which is a play. Now, guys, remember, key thing, pace is structure, but pace is fast in this text because of the form. because the form of this text is a what? It is a play. And Mr. Salis, believe it or not, I've actually never watched Macbeth in the theatre.
What?
I've never actually watched Macbeth in the theatre. I've seen Romeo and Juliet, I've seen a few others, but we should maybe go together.
Yes.
We should vlog it. But I've never actually watched Macbeth in the theatre. But guys, a play is how long? A play is what? 2 hours maybe, 2.5? It's like a movie, lengthwise. So you gotta move quick. Hence why normally guys in plays, you see the pace is super fast. Okay, that's what we're gonna analyze as AO2. So let's do it. Look like the innocent flower. That's the first thing that me and Mr. Salis picked. Okay, guys, so look, she's now talking to Macbeth, right? And she's saying to Macbeth, listen, my beautiful husband, I need you to do the following. I need you to look like the innocent flower. If we remove the word innocent from this sentence for 1 second, look like a flower, for example. When you think of flowers, do you think of evil, monsters, cruelty? No, you think of like, I don't know, like a sunflower. You think of sun shining and grass growing and flowers growing. It's beautiful. So a flower in itself, in nature, is innocent. But why does she have to add the adjective innocent? She wants to emphasize and she wants to highlight how important this is. You have to really fake it till you make it. She's encouraging the performance. Listen, my husband, you can't just walk around being who you normally are. You're a nice guy. Macbeth is a nice guy. She said earlier, he's too full of the milk of human kindness. But that's not enough. That's not enough. He needs to amp it up even more. He now needs to be like that child asking their parents for money for something they want. Dad, your hair looks so nice today. Dad, you're my favorite person in the whole wide world. Look like the innocent flower. Really, really emphasize it. And that's the first part of the quote. She's telling Macbeth that who you are, you're okay. You're not a bad guy, but it's not enough for what we're going to do. You need to really, really hype up this performance of pure innocence. Now, Salis?
So I'm going to link that to the idea of the flower. So she picks on the natural imagery of the flower, obviously because it links to innocence, it's not threatening, but it's also something we associate with femininity. So in our previous video, we analysed Unsex Me Here, where Lady Macbeth is rejecting her own femininity. Here, she's now putting that femininity onto Macbeth. So he is now having to wear a female role, a female guise. Well, this foreshadows how things are not going to go well for him, because that isn't something that is going to fit a murderer, and it's not going to fit a king. So she's asking him to take on a role, a feminine role, that is going to be incredibly difficult for him to do.
Be innocent, be a flower. That's important. But there's something way more important. And that's the second part of the quote. Here, guys, she says, look like the innocent flower. It's not aggressive in her tone, but the tone shifts in the second part of the quote. But be the serpent under it. There's no option here. There's no be like a serpent. There's no kind of nonchalant attitude here. Her tone shifts and she hones in on the second part. This one's important, but this is way more important. You better do this. You have to be the what? Be the serpent under it. Now, I'm excited, I will let you talk about the serpent, but I was just gonna focus on under it.
Yeah.
Be a flower, but be the serpent. Not be the serpent over there. Not be the serpent under the grass. Be the serpent right next to the flower. Remember, guys, flower symbolizes good. Serpent symbolizes bad. So she's saying, keep your evil nature, keep your dark side close by. Mr. Stanley, why do you think she says that? I think, right, sometimes she's worried that Macbeth will go back and he'll get pulled back to the good side.
Because like you said, he's too full of the milk of human kindness.
Yes. So she's almost trying to make sure that he doesn't have a relapse, if you like.
Yeah.
And he doesn't go back to being good. So don't forget that evil nature. Don't forget who you truly are. And that's what you have to be.
And when you were emphasising it and you read this out loud, it emphasised for me the alliteration that really puts that command in. This is the change of state that we want. Right, the serpent is so useful to us because we can talk about the original sin. If you haven't come across original sin before, it's the idea that because of what Adam and Eve did, listening to the serpent, we are all now born with that sin of their original evil. And so she's trying to get Macbeth in touch with his own evil, and rather than seeing it as something that he should run away from, which is what Christians do, she's saying, no, you've got to embrace that. That is who you really are. Even though, as Mr. Everything English just said, she actually fears he's much more like that.
I mean, Alice, you can add to what you're saying, right? Serpents, innocent, underrated flower. I'll explain what I mean. Flowers are innocent in nature.
Yep.
Serpents are hidden.
Yes.
In nature anyway.
Yes.
You're not going to see a serpent out on the streets.
That's right.
They're going to be camouflaged in the grass or wherever they're hanging out. But she adds these two on the side to emphasize which quality of this noun they must adopt.
Right.
From the flower, you must be innocent. From
Right.
the serpent, I don't want you to attack like a serpent. I want you to hide
Yes.
like a serpent. So if you look at these two and you look at what she adds on either side, guys, she's very specific about her instructions. She knows exactly what she wants, just like any woman. She knows exactly what she wants, and she makes sure that her husband knows exactly how to behave. She's very, very specific because she can't risk something going wrong. So, Salis, simile done, metaphor done. Should we move on to structure?
Let's do it.
Okay, so for structure, we should start.
Juxtaposition and sprinkling.
Yeah.
That's you all over, that is.
Which one? Sprinkling? I'll start with the sprinkling. Guys, sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Now, we spoke about Salt Bay, we were laughing. But guys, this entire playwright, nothing should come as a surprise. Because Shakespeare begins dropping signs about the characters and what's going to happen and their evil nature from the very, very beginning of the play. And he just drips it, he sprinkles it across the play, and it gradually builds up. For example, in the earlier video that me and Mrs. Hassan has recorded, we looked at the quote, "Unsex me here." This is an extension of "Unsex me here." Because what is she doing here? She is making her husband into something that a man in a patriarchal society did not be. A man wasn't known for being innocent. A man wasn't known for being nice. So guys, Shakespeare is sprinkling these ideas across the text. Why? Because he's turning then gender roles upside down, which by the end of the play, Mr. Salis, what do you think? It leads to their downfall. It leads to Macbeth getting his head chopped off and being stuck on a spear because this doesn't fit him. And it leads to her committing suicide because she doesn't fulfill this role of being the strong, powerful, dominant wife. That's his job.
Yeah, I agree. That's taking me into AO3 now. Do you reckon it's a good time?
Yeah, and we'll come back. That's fine. It's perfect.
Okay. So one of the things that many students don't realise is that this play wasn't written to be put on at the Globe, Shakespeare's normal theatre. He was paid by the King, King James, to put the play on at court, at his own palace, to be performed in front of his own nobles. So it's a propaganda piece. It's there to reinforce James's power and claim to the throne. So it's really important to Shakespeare that he shows this couple fails in trying to gain power, because the political fear at the time is that nobles in the audience, many of them sitting there, would think they had just as good a right to claim the throne as King James.
Yeah.
But to do that would be to go against society, and so he needs to show that going against social rules, going against religious rules, going against gender rules, leads to tragedy in the same way as any deviation from going against King James's court.
Yeah, and that's like the moral purpose, right?
Yes.
That's what comes towards the end of the text. Guys, there's two more AO3s that we're going to cover. We've got Butler and we've got Patriarchy. Let's start with Patriarchy. Let's do Patriarchy first. Let's do Patriarchy first. Guys, Patriarchy, why do we do Patriarchy first? Because I always say, guys, it is easier to apply than some of the other context. Mr. Salis, in a nutshell, how would you define patriarchy?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because this is the word that Mr. Everything English has in every single one of his videos.
That's the one.
And I completely support that. So any text we study is always dealing with the idea of how much or how little power women have in society. And in this play, we've got this major problem that the people who are trying to gain power at the beginning are the witches, they're female. Then we have Lady Macbeth trying to orchestrate this assassination of Duncan, also female. And so the play in many ways is obsessed with the power that women have. At the end of the play, the witches get a telling off from their master, Hecate, and Lady Macbeth gets killed. So we could say that the structure of the play reinforces the patriarchy that says women are not allowed to have power and they're not safe having power.
Love that point. It's a beautiful point. It's honestly, and it's a point that I also make. It's a very, very good point. He shows, unfortunately, in a patriarchal society, power was not synonymous with women. They were not capable of handling power, because in a patriarchal society, if you look at what made you powerful, you would look at a man, because that's what it will lead you to. Guys, another patriarchal link, if you want to make it, you can make it. The idea of, we're looking at Macbeth here, and it's the idea that Macbeth almost forgets society in his pursuit of power. He lets her make him the innocent flower. He's forgotten what brought him to the dance. What brought him to the dance? Macbeth wasn't known for being innocent. Macbeth wasn't known for all those things. He was. If you want to look at a patriarchal man, it oozes off Macbeth. He's the one chopping people up in the battle. He's carving his passage. This is not Macbeth. He walks around with his sword in his hand. He's not hiding nothing. But she tries to kind of change his makeup. And that's when it goes upside down, guys. So you can argue that maybe patriarchy had its benefits for him, because it clearly defined who he is and how he has to behave. The moment he tried to divert, it all crackled. Then we move on, guys, to Judith Butler. Now, this is a context, guys, that maybe some of you want to use and see how you get on. Now, guys, Judith Butler, is the camera catching this shot? Slightly. Guys, Judith Butler looked at performance. And what she said, she's a feminist, guys, and I did it when I was at university. And what she said was that sex is fixed. So if you're a male, you're a male. If you're a female, you're a female. But she said your gender can be changed. So she called gender performance, and she used the analogy of the wardrobe of gender. So for example, if you want to be known as a very strong, powerful man, how might a strong, powerful man behave? I don't know, stick his chest out when he walks, speak with a deep voice.
I do that all the
time. You perform that better than I perform it. But my point being, guys, that's the performance of a strong, powerful man. A woman who wants to be beautiful, maybe nice dresses, maybe the makeup, the hair is on point. It's a performance, right? So she argued that gender is a performance. But what's the issue with the performance? It only lasts so long. Sooner or later, you got to take off the costume. Sooner or later, you have to go back to who you really are. Now, how can you link that to this quote? Because this quote, she's telling Macbeth, perform, my husband. Forget who you are, perform that man. Perform that man. But the performance doesn't last, and they both crumble. Lady Macbeth tries to perform this strong, powerful woman in Unsex Me Here. And Macbeth is trying to be fake. He's trying to be innocent to the world, but evil inside. Guys, they both are walking, talking contradictions. They're walking, talking juxtapositions, because their performance is what is killing them gradually across the play. So that's the link you want to make with, guys, Judith Butler and the idea of gender being a performance in this play and for these characters. I don't know, maybe even the witches. How come the witches have to be described by Banquo in such a masculine manner?
Yes.
Because for them to be like that, to fit the criteria of the witches, they have to have rubbish clothes.
Yes.
And they have to look a certain way and act a certain way.
Yes.
Have you ever seen a play of Macbeth where the witches come out in nice dresses and lovely hair? Maybe you don't.
Exactly.
Because they fit a criteria of how they're supposed to behave. So guys, try it, see if it fits, and see how you get on with that piece of context.
So I've not come across Judith Butler before, but actually this is a really useful bit of context because it explains why Macbeth kills the grooms. Because he was innocent only the night before, appearing innocent while he's killing Duncan. Yeah. And then he's appearing innocent when Macduff arrives. Oh yeah, let's go and wake up the king, no bother here. But as soon as the king has been discovered dead, he can no longer pretend to be innocent. That's how short the performance is. And he kills the guards. And then everybody starts to become suspicious of him. And so I love this idea of gender being a performance because he can't sustain it.
Yeah, and again, even Lady Macbeth, that's a good point. In Act 2, scene 2, Lady Macbeth, she finds that Duncan's dead. And she's like, oh my God. And they say, take her. A woman shouldn't. A woman can't see this. And she does that performance.
Yeah.
Yet she's the one that planned the whole thing.
Yes.
But she tries to play the innocent female character. She tries to fit in to the norms of society, but she can't do it. She's too far gone. And guys, that's why as the play progresses, she crumbles by Act 5. Really do practice using this quote. Practice using unsex me here. Because trust me guys, these 2 quotes are literally 2 paragraphs of your essay.
Or more, the way we've done it.
You can whole essay on this quote. No, don't, because the other teachers will kill us if their students write 1 paragraph. Sorry, 4 paragraphs in 1 quote. But guys, one point, we spoke about so many things. I'm not even sure how long the video's gone on for. I always say this, you can't use everything we said in the paragraph, but you pick what you see fit based upon the question and based upon how you want to analyze the effect.
Brilliant. Well, I've enjoyed this so much. I know you have because you're still here. If you want to see more videos, give us some comments about what topics you'd like. Yes. If you want to see how to do this with Unsex Me Now, go and unsex yourself with the next video.
Let's finish it. How do you finish it? Is it done?
That's done.
Peace.